Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. Joining me right now, lidblog.com's Jeff Dunetz, who is very well connected to all of the best sources of information about what's going on in Israel and Gaza and what's going on in terms of the political response to.
I see you have my book there.
Yeah, the book that I wrote. I
wrote it. We've been joking about this for years.
Oh yeah. This is an ongoing joke between Jeff and I. Jeff, first off, I think everybody's angry and very determined that that this gets put to an end. I mean, this has been a horrendous week, and the stories are still coming out. And I know that a lot of people in Israel, and I would imagine at this point there isn't a family that's untouched from this invasion.
I think everybody feels it. I mean, Ed, we've lived through a ton of wars, unfortunately. Have you ever heard a war where they've gone into children's room and cut off their head while they were alive?
No. I mean, it's just unimaginable. Just the depravity, the absolute depravity. And you know what frustrates me, Jeff, is that people are discounting the depravity, right? Well, there's both sides are wrong sort of thing. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. It's like saying both sides were wrong on 9/11. And to me, I mean, literally, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, and I think everybody describes it wrong too, especially in the press. It's not Israel versus the Palestinians or Israel versus Muslims. It's Israel versus Hamas. And you can't put the whole group of Palestinians or Muslims in it because, that kind of biases the whole story.
True, but I think that you can say Israel versus Gaza because Hamas was elected by Gaza.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Actually, they actually took it over from the Palestinian Authority because they were running it and Hamas took it over. Now they're trying to take over Israel.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's always been the plan, right? I mean, that's I think what they were hoping, and the IDF is saying that that according to information that they had that they've recovered, that the plan was to actually hold ground in southern Israel and then apparently get a breakout from the Gaza zone to expand their footprint in southern Israel and probably to inspire Hezbollah and Syria to join in from the north and start one of these full-scale wars that Israel's had to fight in the past. The Yom Kippur War, the 6-Day War,
with the little skirmishes. Yeah, I mean, they, as my mother would say, want to share in the nachas. They want to share in the fun of beating up Jews in Israel. And little skirmishes coming from the Hezbollah in the north, from the east with on the West Bank. And really, and that's Syria, and they're lucky that Jordan isn't doing it from the east, but Jordan has a peace treaty.
Right, and they're honoring it. I mean, they're talking about Israel, stopping the ground invasion too, just like the other Sunni nations are. I don't know if Saudi Arabia has been very vocal about that, though. I haven't heard. I mean, I'm asking you, has Saudi Arabia said much about this so far?
No,
I didn't think so.
Jordan's been saying negative things. That's because they're part of the squad.
Yeah, I think that part of that is just satisfying the domestic population, right? I don't know that they expect Israel to take that seriously. I just find it interesting that the Saudis really haven't said much at all.
No.
I think they're...
You got to understand something. The Saudis are really not Saudis. The kingdom took over the country a couple of 100 years ago, and there's still that division. So they got to go right down the line and not be too pro-Israel.
Right. No, I completely understand that. But, I think if you got rid of Hamas in Gaza, it would uncomplicate things a lot.
Yes.
And I think
Problem
that,
is, and the division is that some people say you got to go to Gaza and take it over forever. And that's not going to happen.
you don't think so?
No. Israel doesn't want to keep Gaza, but they do want to clean it out. And I don't mean clean it out by turning it into a parking lot. I mean clean it out by getting rid of the bad guys.
Okay, so this is a good discussion. How do you do that when the population there supports the bad guys? I mean, there's 2 million people in Gaza, and they were until this week, up until maybe a minute ago, big time Hamas supporters.
Yes, but not all of them. I think they'll see the power of Israel, and Israel has a great, almost like a a squad that goes. My brain is fried. Excuse me, but they have the undercover armies.
Right. Yeah. They've got commandos and intel squads, and I get that. I mean, this is sort of like the Allies in 1945 after they finally conquered Germany. You have to conquer it first, though.
America is giving advice, but they're not coming in, and Israel doesn't want them to come in.
I agree.
Israel's always said no when they've gotten the offer.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think we do much good. We don't have the, we don't have the intelligence for that. Honestly, the best thing that the U.S. can do for Israel right now is to just stay out of the way, to not interfere, to not tell them don't do this and don't do that, to let Israel do what needs to be done. And I think this is the first time that the U.S. is going to do that in quite a long time, because of the utter depravity of what took place this past week. And by the way, even as we're talking, they're still finding Hamas terrorists in Israel. I just saw something across Twitter like an hour or two ago, where the IDF captured another one that was still hiding in there. So they haven't even flushed all of them out of Israel.
But I got to tell you something. I'm not a fan of Biden. His speech the other day was the best pro-Israel speech that I've ever heard from a president. And I think he was honest and felt the pain of all those dead people and the children being massacred and things like that. And he was angry about it. And I think that kind of scared the other people a little, just like the Armada coming in. Yeah. 2 aircraft carrier groups. Things like that scare the other side, and they're freezing the $6 billion. Yeah, they got Qatar to do that, and this is, we're jumping around a little bit from topic to topic, which is great. I want to talk a little bit about that, because initially the Biden administration was saying, oh, the $6 billion had nothing to do with this. $6 billion had nothing to do with this. Now they're refreezing it. And I actually predicted this yesterday. We're recording this on Thursday. I actually predicted this yesterday on Wednesday, saying that this investigation into links between Iran and Hamas's operation was nonsense. Everybody knows that Hamas is a proxy for Iran. They're looking for a pretext to reverse that transfer of the assets. How come you never told me? I like to keep it secret. You know how I keep it secret? I put it up at hot air. Put it up at hot air. It's a total secret. That's the best way to keep a secret, Jeff. Not me. I read it. Sorry. Well, good. I'm glad that I tipped you off at least. But it doesn't surprise me. I guess I'm a little surprised that Qatar decided to cooperate. Qatar is, Qatar has they're hosting the Hamas leadership at the moment, and they are trying to be seen as somebody that can do business with Iran. And I have a feeling that the Iranians are not very happy with Qatar's leadership at the moment. Qatar is like Turkey. They go both ways. Yeah. Depending on which way the wind blows. And like the Ayatollah, he goes both ways too. He likes male sheep and female sheep.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, Jeff. So, I mean, do you think that how long is that $6 billion going to be frozen? How long do you think that, and by the way, I agree with you on Biden's speech. I do. I thought it was a really good speech. But how long do you think,
the war?
do you think so? Because
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
Well, until the war calms down, this is going to be a very long war. Okay. Hamas isn't going to surrender that easily, but they eventually will. It's going to be a very long war. You said before they're finding people hiding under houses,
Yeah.
It's almost like, remember World War II where they find Japanese people in a cave? Like
Yep.
for 20 years? Well, it's going to be like that. Okay. Yep. So I think when the fighting calms down, they'll because I don't think they could keep it that long. I sent my bank account number to President Biden in case he wanted to leave it somewhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a billion here and a billion there. I could retire off of that. But
I was too busy trying to get you the job as Speaker of the House. I wouldn't want that job.
I'm a masochist. That's the reason why I volunteered for it. I also volunteered for it because I'm really darn sure that nobody's going to take me up on the offer.
And not you.
Yeah. I think my wife would say, "Are you out of your mind?" And frankly, the answer would be yes.
Well, yeah, but they're too busy fighting among themselves.
Yeah. But getting back to the war here, Israel has not yet started a ground operation, and some are suggesting that might be because they just need a little bit more time to get the intelligence they need. I am certain that there are Gazans now who are looking to avoid, the consequences of this, who might be talking about where Hamas is at in order to avoid too much damage to other areas.
I have friends who were called up and just got there.
Yeah.
So
it's something to keep in mind too, is that they haven't even had a chance to assemble yet.
One of my friends is a parachuter, so I told him when he's done, come on over into my backyard. But it takes a while to get the troops together and to train the troops and make plans, because they didn't have a plan. And that's it. They've been concentrating on the north, okay, because they thought they were going to be invaded by Hezbollah. And they didn't do anything with the south. And that's the big problem. One of the big problems.
Well, I mean, that's one of the big problems, right? Is that they weren't prepared for this. I mean, this is a shocking failure of both intelligence and preparation.
The towns that they're talking about on television are like a mile or 2 miles away from the border.
Yeah. I mean, it's very close.
Yes.
These are they have found penetrations, though, as far out as Ashkelon, I think was what I read.
Well, so Ashkelon is only 3 miles. Okay.
But I mean, that's a pretty significant penetration for an invasion. I mean, it just is.
Right. And they actually, they've been targeting Tel Aviv also. It hasn't happened, but they've been sending missiles there.
Right. Well, they were sending missiles at Ben Gurion Airport. Yeah. Early on.
Because Tel Aviv was the first big city created by the people building Israel.
Right.
So they hate it.
Well, also because it's the main travel center for Israel, right? I mean, that's where the international airport's at. That's where the commerce goes back and forth through. I mean, it's kind of like in a way, kind of like a New York of Israel, right?
Well, yeah, but it's also where the nice beaches are.
Yes.
where the Jewish girls in bikinis are, it's a resort town also. Matter of fact, when I was there, my wife kept wanting to go to Tel Aviv, stay in Tel Aviv, and I wanted to get out and see things.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they're aiming the missiles at Tel Aviv. They're looking to paralyze the country economically, as well as in terms of
where the financial center is.
Right. In terms of communication, and communication in all its forms, not just talking and writing, but also in terms of being able to move things in and out of the country. Tel Aviv is
there were rumors that Hamas has already done that, but they were, like I've always told you, get two sources. Now I'm going to tell you, if your source hasn't been backed out by IDF or the government, it's probably a lie.
Well, I mean, that came up yesterday, right? Because there was the rumor that that Hezbollah had sent paratroops into northern Israel, and it turned out it was just a couple of drones. I mean, these guys are definitely testing. What's that?
They had a picture with babies in jails, and everyone was going.
I saw that. What was that? I did see that.
It wasn't happening.
I wasn't even sure what it was supposed to represent. I saw it fly by on social media, and I was like, "What the hell was that?"
Well, you got to understand something.
Like in kennels. They were like in kennels, stacked up kennels or something. Yeah.
But one thing that that Hamas does is they create stories that make them look bad. So Israel calms down and thinks they're winning, so they can attack.
Well, now Hamas is now coming out and saying that none of their people killed civilians, that it was ordinary Gazans that came out and killed the civilians, which since they are the government of Gaza, it doesn't actually mean a whole lot. But I mean, that's also sort of nonsense, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like saying in a Marine action that the Marines are just American citizens and they killed people, just because they had to.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference, though. When Hamas kills people, it's because they want to. That was the reason for the operation is they wanted to massacre Jews.
Right.
When Israel kills citizens, it's because it's collateral damage and they feel bad about it. And if Israel pilots did what Hamas is doing, they'd be in jail.
Right. And that's because Israel actually has, pays attention to, to the best of their ability, pays attention to the rules of warfare. But one of the rules of warfare is if you are putting military and government assets among civilians, then you are making those civilians legitimate military targets. And that's what's happening in Gaza. It's what's always happening.
Shields, and that's one of what they always do.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it was last night. I was, on social media too much, and there was a New York Times article about how Al-Shifa Hospital was running out of power, and the doctors there were saying that this is a mass war atrocity. There's going to be a mass atrocity because people are going to start dying, and there wasn't a single mention in that article that the Al-Shifa Hospital is also known as Hamas headquarters. Hamas operates their main headquarters from inside Al-Shifa Hospital. It's common knowledge. The Washington Post reported about it about 9 years ago, the last time that there was a major conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows that Al-Shifa Hospital is Hamas headquarters, and the New York Times doesn't mention it at all in this article. It's just ridiculous. And so, yeah, that's part of this sort of propaganda war that unfortunately Western media is just too eager to cooperate with.
Well, I mean, they put Hamas and Israel on the same level. One is attacking, the other one's being attacked. You can't equalize them. So, but that's what the newspapers do. Well, and the television media. It's like, I think they think that Donald Trump works for the Israelis.
Yeah, I mean, but it's become partisanized like that. And I mean, we're seeing it on college campuses too. It's become completely partisanized, where you've got, college groups using an image of a paraglider for their rallies.
My favorite, though, is Harvard, because did you hear what happened afterwards? All the Harvard student organizations created a anti-Israel propaganda. I think it was a letter or something, and a Harvard alumni got 10 other CEOs to tell everyone, we're not going to hire anyone from Harvard.
Yeah, no, and I was talking about that with Adam today on one of our Amiable Skeptics episodes. I just recorded it about an hour or so before we started this one. It's that type of accountability that's going to fix that problem. And it's very interesting that Wall Street is now pushing back against all this, against this woke nonsense, of which this is very much part. The whole decolonization crap is part of the wokery that college campuses have been promoting forever. And
but it's no different than saying math is racist. It's the way they think.
Right. I mean, the whole thing's
sorry for bringing out. I know you don't like math, but it was an example.
I like certain kinds of math. There's some math that I would prefer to avoid, mostly having to do with age.
My son, who graduated with applied math degree, tells me I get mixed up between arithmetic and math.
Yes. My son says the same thing to me. He's also got an advanced mathematics degree.
I said, anytime you need a calculator, I don't want to do it.
So yes, at any rate, when would you, I mean, I'm not sure what you've heard. I'm not sure what you're seeing. When would you expect to see, what's the earliest that you would expect to see a ground incursion in Gaza at this point?
I know the population is calling for it over and over. They just formed the unity government, and
very interesting.
And I think that they're got to make a plan together. Okay, and it's interesting. I heard both Netanyahu and the new guy make speeches yesterday, and Netanyahu isn't a great leader. If you listen to what he says, it's like, remember when Obama, we used to count how many times it was me?
Yeah.
Netanyahu is like that. Gantz isn't like that. And he seemed like a real leader. And when you look at the polls, he looks like he's going to be the next PM.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were kind of surprised he wasn't the PM already.
Right.
But it is, but I mean, I want to ask you about that. You're very much an expert on Israeli politics. I mean, I thought it was astounding. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I don't want to say I was surprised, right? Because this is what happens when you are under attack, is that you usually form unity governments. The British did it in the early days of World War II, right? They put aside partisanship. They came together. They brought everybody, the best and the brightest from all parties, to get together to defeat the Nazis. So I wasn't surprised that Israel had it eventually did
it a lot.
What's that?
They did it in 1967. Right. They did it in 1973. They even did it for COVID. Even though Biden says he fixed the COVID in Israel.
Yeah, I actually kind of forgotten that they formed a unity government for that. But I mean, that really does say something when you've got Netanyahu and Benny Gantz getting together and cooperating in a government together. I mean, this is about the only situation in which that might have been possible.
Well, you got to understand something. As dirty as our politics are, Israel's politics are 10 times dirtier. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot more competition. It's a real multi-party democracy.
But
And
it's also, the verbiage is a lot nastier.
yeah. This is like 19th century American politics when you could call somebody a basically, I think actually literally a hermaphrodite.
I don't think they've used that. I mean, they've used traitor a lot, which, if you're running for office and willing to give up your life, I mean, not kill yourself, but your life to be in politics and help run the country, you can't be a traitor.
No.
No.
Unless you're Bob Menendez. That's a whole other subject, though.
Did you
he got indicted. I mean, his new indictment is conspiracy to act as a foreign agent for Egypt, which is basically espionage. They're accusing him of passing state secrets to Egypt. I don't think that they're using the Espionage Act, but I think that basically what they're accusing him of is espionage. But yeah, I mean, politics can get awfully dirty. So when you have a situation, especially in Israel, where a unity government is formed, I think it really speaks to the singular focus that Israel now has to take in regards to its security with Hamas. And I think that Israel has to people around them too.
Israel has a lot of issues that are splitting the country, like the legal one with the judges. So,
right.
And all of them gave up their battles to coalesce behind this effort. And the minute the election, the war is over, they're going to start fighting again. It's like that old joke about putting two Jews in a room and you get 15 opinions.
Yep.
But it's true in Israel.
Yeah.
Well, it's also true here, but
yeah, I was going to say it's not limited to Israel, my friend.
But they were fighting internally.
Yeah. All right, we should probably wrap this up though. But what comes next in Israel? I mean, obviously, we're waiting for the ground incursion.
I think by next weekend, it'll be ready.
So not this weekend, but the weekend after.
The latest.
Yeah, I think we're a day or two away myself, but
Jazz, next weekend is a bye week for the Jets. So they can go invade because they don't have to watch a game.
There you go. Or on the other hand, they can invade when the Jets are playing, so nobody has to watch that game either. All right. Jeff Dunetz, lidblog.com. On the tweeters as at Yid with Lid, and you should be checking all that out. You're on the Mark Shaftline report quite often now.
About an hour ago.
Yeah, you're just on it. So we're catching you on the flip side of that. So, all right, folks, be sure you're following Jeff. And Jeff, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.